So now I want to ask a more personal question. Who is the person who you feel has been most influential in you achieving your success in your career? And you can't pick anybody easy like Jesus or Buddha or something like that, or your kids or your spouse or your current boss. Here you go, Patsy.
Okay, so since I couldn't pick any of those, I know, I'd say the person that was most influenced in my life has been my mother. She has passed away, but she was always a real hard worker. She kind of started at the bottom, worked really hard, and moved up into management. And she always said, be good to your employees. Be sure that you're upfront with them, be honest, and you'll earn their trust and their respect. And if you have that, you just have really good employees.
So my first job out of college was at JCPenney Catalog Distribution Center out on Lackman Road. And at the time when I was hired, they brought in a bunch of college students every year, and big distribution center. We worked in a number of different departments. And so you kind of did a year in this department and rotated around, and eventually got to customer service, which led to me to where I'm at now. But there were two people at that company. Well, first of all, they do a great job of onboarding and training. So, but there were two people that influenced me the most. One was their HR manager. His name was Jeff Sembler. He's no longer with us, but he had a tremendous skill set for talking to people. He could give coaching, and even if it was a negative conversation, he could make them feel good about it. The way he communicated was excellent. And then the other was a gentleman named Frank Kemp, who is still today a guy that I consider a mentor, and I try and have lunch with him every couple of months. He was our general manager over the whole site, and he was great in front of people. He was a tremendous leader and motivator. But in a big warehouse, he would walk through and see things, and it inspired me when I was young that he, even when nobody was looking, I'd see him grab a broom if there was something on the ground, and he really was kind of a man of the people, but he was a great leader and set high expectations that he expected of his team, but I always knew that he never expected anything of us that he wasn't willing to do. So those are the two people.
Obviously, family, parents, things like that are big influences, but since you made us not do that, I thought of two people, both of which are owners of the two companies that I've had the pleasure of working for. One is Mike Mitchell. I used to work at a company called Jones & Mitchell Sportswear. He and his roommate from college, Bo Jones, started a T-shirt manufacturing company that did silk screening and embroidery and sold to college bookstores. And so he, again, was just somebody that provided opportunities for growth. He believed in people, encouraged people, something similar to your experience, Perry. He could walk in and be on sabbatical or out of the office for a long period of time and come in and there'd be like 20 new employees, and he already knew their names and walked up to them and talked to them, and just acted like he knew them forever. And whenever you have that in an environment, and again, a lot of times smaller companies can be that way, but it does make an impact of, hey, you're valued as an employee, and I know who you are, and thank you for being here, and those types of things. So, and then the one is currently Dave Kiersnowski. He's the owner of our current company, and again, someone who, if you met in a room, is the most humble, thoughtful person. Again, if there was a piece of trash, he would pick it up off the floor. If there were somebody standing, he would give up his chair, just always thinking of others, and providing atmospheres where you are a good listener and you're thinking about other people's well-being. It just makes for an atmosphere where you can grow and you can thrive and you can ask questions and not feel like, and that's where you're going to get the multiple people sharing ideas and not being afraid to speak. And one thing I'll share real quick, he shared a story about NASA, and he did not want to create a culture like NASA. And he even, brought a piece of foam to work and talked to us as employees and said, do you know what this is? We're like, yeah, it's a piece of foam. What's so good about a piece of foam? And he said, well, at NASA, when they were getting ready to launch the Space Shuttle Challenger, they had a culture that there were senior level people in the organization in NASA that had been there, many years, and you didn't question them. When they said, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. So there were a lot of new starts and people coming in that were working on this project of sending the Challenger up in space. And at one point, the people lower level were noting what would happen if the foam actually came off. How would that damage and we said, we're not going to worry about that. We have a deadline. We want to get these people up in space, not thinking that these are people you're putting up in space. And so anyway, they kept dismissing the fact that the senior level people wanted to stay on task and that they knew what they needed to do. And so we all know what happened. And so he was very clear in stating that with our company, if we want to create a culture where people can stand up in a meeting and say, I don't think this is right, and let's talk about it, and that's okay. And so hopefully you guys can do that with your organizations as well. Is you're not going to get where you want to be if you don't take the time to say, hey, no, let me listen. What's your idea? How can we think through that? So.
Probably the two most influential people in my career were my first two managers when I started working at MBS. As a college student, I knew nothing about supervising staff or anything to do with that. And my first manager taught me how important it is to care about your employees and to provide them with valuable feedback, not just feedback, but valuable feedback to help them grow and achieve, and that your goal with your employees is not to correct them, but to help them be the best that they can be. And so, and then my second manager taught me to have a sense of humor about everything, to not let things get to you as much as what sometimes we have a tendency to do. And his whole approach, he treated me like a dad. I mean, we're very close. And so I felt always very comfortable talking to him about things, and he allowed me to do exactly what you said about questioning things. Like, is this the right thing to do? Just because we need to do it, does that mean we should do it?